Every time Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic face off, we are treated to the best the NBA has to offer. It's as though we're watching two giant basketball gods, a 285-pound offensive master at the absolute peak of his powers versus a 7'4", rapidly ascending, prodigious defensive talent who does things on offense no player of his size has ever dreamed of. In a sport dominated by bigs since its inception, these two are still completely one of a kind, both must-see TV every time they touch the floor. But in their most recent double feature, thrilling back-to-back head-to-head matchups on Friday and Saturday, we witnessed the greatest entertainment this young rivalry has offered us so far. The most fascinating part of these battles to me is the clash between Jokic's offense and Wemby's defense. But when it comes to the first matchup between these two this weekend, we have to start by talking about Wemby's offensive performance, as he dropped 35 points on 14 of 22 shooting. Wemby got a few of his automatic "I'm 7'4" buckets at the rim in this game, including this and one in transition where he waited and baited Russell Westbrook to fly in and foul him, knowing he'd score anyways. Wemby shoots 76% in the restricted area, a top tier number, and his ability to get several of these baked in scores at the rim because of his overwhelming size every game significantly boosts his floor as a scorer. But despite his gigantic status, the Nuggets were very willing to switch non-bigs onto Wembanyama, who at this stage in his career has not proven himself as an excellent post scorer or mismatch attacker. But in this game, he was looking to go at those guards and wings out of the post, which he did with mixed results. You'll notice a theme on all of Wemby's scores in these spots. A one dribble back down into a hook shot, a one dribble back down to then turn and shoot right over Murray, a face-up possession where he keeps the ball high and just shoots over top of Peyton Watson. These are all quick, decisive possessions where Wemby fully weaponizes his size advantage and protects the ball with minimal dribbling. Remarkably, on the 13 possessions that Wemby posted up a non-big in game 1, he shot 5 of 5 from the field. He did not miss once when he got a shot up, but he also had 6 turnovers. When Wemby did try to dribble into traffic or expose the ball low at all, like with this rip through, he coughed it up to the feisty defenders lower to the ground or made an errant pass under pressure. He also really struggled to manage double teams, usually turning the ball over against those looks. This remains an area for improvement for Wemby. He's generated just 0.74 points per post up for his team when facing a hard double this year, an 18th percentile number. Wemby is a skilled passer, but he's turned the ball over more than a quarter of the time when double teamed, which shows that he can really be bothered by that pressure. Overall, Wemby averages 0.98 points per post-up this year, an average number that will go up as he adds strength, attacks more decisively while putting the ball on the floor less, and develops better composure under pressure. And this game was a very clear indication of his strengths and weaknesses as a post player right now. But where Wemby is nearly impossible to bother is as a three-point shooter, which he has fully unlocked over the last 20 games, shooting 40% on over 10 attempts per game, as he has averaged nearly 30 points per game on 64% true shooting in that span. Wemby's three-point shooting leap has been pivotal to his offensive improvement, and he was hot from deep in game 1, knocking down 4 of 6 attempts. But Wemby also wisely weaponized the threat of his three-point shot to create for others. He rises up here as the trailer in transition, one of his favorite spots to shoot these deep threes, but as 3 defenders converge on him in a panic, he drops this down to Keldon Johnson for an easy go-ahead and one in a huge spot. So even with the turnovers, Wemby dominated this game offensively. But as I said, the real fascinating stuff happens on the other side of the floor where both players are at their best. Wemby presents a totally unique challenge to Jokic, whose biggest task is to figure out how to navigate Wemby's absurd length. In one matchup last year, we saw Jokic very deliberately spacing the floor in an effort to pull Wemby out of the paint and keep him from disrupting the other Nuggets' ability to attack the rim. When Wemby gave him space, Jokic would then cut in quickly to put up a floater before the big man could contest him. which worked because Jokic has the best paint touch we've ever seen. Those were efficient shots. In their first matchup this year, Jokic remained very committed to spacing the floor, but this time, he basically just put up a 3 whenever Wemby left him. Jokic took 10 threes in Game 1, his second highest total of the season, and despite his league-leading three-point percentage on the year, he made just 3 of those attempts. As good as Jokic has been from deep, and although it is very valuable to be able to pull Wemby away from the rim, if he attempts 10 threes in a game, that's usually a win for the defense in my eyes, because Jokic is so dominant inside the arc as both a scorer and passer. That is more his comfort zone and leads to more reliably great offense than if he's putting up a bunch of threes. But it wasn't just Jokic who was very three-point happy. The Nuggets as a team attempted 39 triples in Game 1, their second highest total of the season, and made just 16 shots in the restricted area, well below their league-leading average mark of nearly 21. That is the Wemby effect, deterring shots around the rim every minute he's on the floor, because who wants to challenge the 7'4" guy with an 8-foot wingspan? Just look at this. Jokic dusts Wemby off this cut, but the pass is off target, and by the time he's collected the ball, Wemby has recovered. Jokic is not going to put this up over him, and instead carelessly throws the ball away. And by the way, Wemby forced several turnovers across these two games as the Nuggets were just trying to get Jokic the ball, either because he got a hand in there or because his size and length forced an overthrow as they were trying to fit the pass over him. Wemby is a disruptor like no one else. Here, Jokic doesn't settle for the 3 and instead hits his patented show and go, leaving Wemby behind him, but somehow the Giant is still able to get a hand on this layup. And here, with the game on the line, Jokic turns to fade away, but with Wemby's spidery arms and a second defender in his face, he can't get a good shot up here and throws the ball away. So, round 1 goes to Wemby and the Spurs. But it was an epic battle. Jokic's touch wasn't as good as usual in the first game, and he ended the night on just 51% true shooting, but he did rack up 41 points, 18 rebounds, and 9 assists against his greatest individual defensive challenger. Jokic found his most success against Wemby just going at him in the post, bullying him with his 70-pound weight advantage, spinning off gracefully, then throwing a quick pump fake to subtly get Wemby to bring his hands down right as Jokic then goes back up for the quick release and puts the ball high off the glass where Wemby can't affect it. But wait a second too long after that initial pump fake and you're just gonna get smothered. Some people look at Wemby and think he won't be an overly imposing post defender because stronger players will be able to back him down due to his slight frame, but he's been a monstrous post defender this year. Players other than Jokic have shot just 3 of 13 when posting up Wemby this season, because even if you can move him, you still have to score over the 7'4" guy with an 8-foot wingspan. To beat Wemby in the post, you don't just have to be strong. You also have to be crafty as hell with excellent touch and a quick release. And Jokic is better in basically all those areas than anybody else on the planet. So we saw more of this dominant post play in the second game. He rams into Wemby and gets up the quick hook after creating space, then spins into deep position and savvily pump fakes him into an and one on the next possession. Then, from the next possession forward, the Spurs started consistently sending double teams at Jokic when he posted up Wemby, which he picked apart to create wide open threes for teammates. And once his 3-ball started falling as well in the second half, Jokic basically had his way with Wemby. This is a clever pump fake to try to cut for a give and go, then he relocates back out to the 3-point line. Jokic still put up a lot of threes in round 2, but finished a more efficient 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. In totality, across the 2 games, when he was matched up with Wemby, Jokic scored 39 points on 15 of 27 shooting, nearly 56% from the field and 67% true shooting when guarded by Wemby. Incredibly impressive. But as is always the case when any great defensive player is on the floor, a big part of the game is figuring out how to work around them. You don't get extra points for making a tough one like this over Wemby. You want to hunt the easy ones, and Jokic is an expert at that. In the second game especially, Jokic exploited the Spurs' willingness to switch Wemby off of him relentlessly. Murray wisely dribbles out here to force Wemby to stay on him after the switch, then feeds Jokic for an easy catch and score over the smaller defender. Here, Vassell just flies at Murray in a failed effort to put some pressure on him, but that forces Wemby to take his man and leaves Jokic guarded by Chris Paul, who he goes through easily to finish this before Wemby can come over to help. And you don't always have to feed Jokic directly to punish these mismatches. Here, the switch just leaves CP3 responsible for Jokic on the offensive glass, and the big man easily cleans this up. When Jokic could beat Wemby down the floor in transition to avoid dealing with him in the half court, or attack a cross match in transition and seal off the smaller player for an easy finish, he was sure to do so. And Jokic cooked the backup bigs in game 2 whenever they were on the floor. So the result of all this was an offensive masterclass from Jokic, who put up 46 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists on 61% true shooting in the overtime win. But I have to also give Jokic credit for his clutch defense in game 2. Jokic's defensive effort has certainly been inconsistent this year, but just in the last 8.5 minutes of this game between regulation and overtime, Jokic had a block, forced 3 turnovers, had another 2 deflections that didn't ultimately result in turnovers, and did an excellent job moving his feet and cutting off driving angles, as he does to Vassell on this play to force the kick out and then rotates over to Wemby to challenge this 3. And by the way, game 2 was just a rough offensive performance from Wemby, largely just because he struggled from deep, shooting 2 of 12, but a couple of these clutch possessions were frustrating too. He tries to attack Peyton Watson off the bounce from the perimeter here, but should know he's not going to get a step on him, and one of the best shot blocking wings in basketball stuffs this. And we just might have to ban this rip through for Wemby for a bit. Keep the ball high, don't expose it like this. But despite his offensive inefficiency, Wemby did finish this game with 20 points, 23 rebounds, and 4 blocks. And the bottom line numbers from both players across these 2 matchups are just out of this world. In fact, over their 6 career matchups, both players have put up video game numbers. Wemby has averaged 25 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks on 53% true shooting. Keep in mind, he just turned 21, but Jokic's stats are frankly almost sickening. 37 points, over 11 rebounds, and 8.5 assists per game on 62% true shooting. Versus the single player who's forced him to adjust his offensive game the most because he's by far the league's biggest physical freak, Jokic has averaged a very efficient 37-point near triple-double. I believe Wemby could be on his way to being the best defensive player ever and perhaps the best player period in NBA history. But the best offensive player ever? That's already Nikola Jokic. He is the NBA's most unsolvable problem. But Wemby brings out the best in him, and this is already my favorite matchup to watch in the entire NBA. 2 unfathomably great and distinct talents, and their battles are only going to get better from here.